Hello, and welcome to today's Back to Basic show. I'm Rico Burton, and I volunteer with AARP Arizona. AARP is the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering people 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. With a nationwide presence and nearly 38 million members across the nation and approximately 900,000 here in Arizona, AARP strengthens communities and advocates for what matters most to families: health security, financial stability, and personal fulfillment. In the month of January, this new year, 2023, we are going to focus on the thriving job market. Despite the pre pandemic unemployment levels, workers of all ages, but especially those 55 and older, are increasingly concerned about an uncertain and ever changing job market. High inflation, higher costs, and a possible recession have made older workers less confident in their ability to get a job or continue to grow in their careers. AARP is a wise friend and a fierce defender of older workers and has programs, offerings, and resources to help. In an uncertain economy and rapidly changing market, you can count on AARP to help you navigate your job search and career path and fight back against age bias. We're also fighting to strengthen age discrimination laws, increase protections, and help companies across the country foster age diverse workforces that value experiences. Across the screen at the bottom, you will see the URL that you can go to find out more information about these things. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello, Coach SheriAnne. Today we're talking about how to make sure that our resolutions stick. Is that right?
Yes, it is. Hello, Lady B. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you and everyone that's here joining us. And please, when you tune in, let us know where you're tuning in from. I always love to see where people are coming in from. But yes, it's a big thing. It kind of stresses people out a little bit, makes them excited. There's a lot of emotions that are tied to setting those New Year's resolutions, your intentions and your goals for the next year. And it's one of those things where it's a new year, it's a new beginning. We have renewed hope for new opportunities, new ways to give, new ways to love, new adventures, all kinds of new things that happen at the beginning of the year. It's just kind of one of those invigorating seasons, I believe. But like I said before, it does create a lot of stress for some people in setting some goals and knowing how to stick to them. Because whether or not people talk about it, the reality is really only about 12% of people feel successful at the end of the year when they look back at their year as far as the intentions that they set.
And is that where the stress comes from?
I'm sorry?
Is that where part of the stress comes from?
I believe so. Like they know that, like, how am I going to do this? Like, how am I going to, or what goals to set? A lot of people really actually struggle with knowing how to set goals and how to set intentions. And so it's one of those things that we'll talk about today. Some of the most popular goals for a new year, New Year's resolutions, are typically like lose weight. People are always like, oh, I gained weight through the holidays, I need to lose weight, or they want to focus on a healthier diet or just exercise regularly. These are all typical ones that people start out. That's why gyms are like bursting at the seams in January, and just give it to like third, fourth week of January, first week of February, and it's like it dwindles like so fast. Some other ones are, financial choices. A lot of people will make some goals and resolutions towards some financial choices. Quit smoking, believe it or not, is still a very, very popular one, mainly because nicotine is a highly addictive substance.
Mm-hmm.
Some I've heard spend more time with my family, which is always a good one. No one ever regrets that usually. Get more organized. People tend to get cluttered throughout the year, and then they come to January and they're like, I'm going to organize this year, and so they'll spend time, getting organized. Other New Year's resolutions or goals could be to learn a new skill or, a new hobby, keep that brain engaged, trying to do new things. So those are some typical things that you can think about if you haven't already thought about them. Have you thought about what you want your New Year's goal or resolution to be?
Oh, of course. And mine is a continuum, I think, of things, because I don't want to run the risk of feeling defeated, if you will, for looking back. That was one of the reasons I asked, why are people not depressed, but stress filled because they don't reach their goals or whatever. And I think part of it is because we look back and say, oh, I didn't do what I said I was going to do. And now there's that feeling of guilt or failure, along with, what do I do this new year? Do I go back? And so that's why I asked that question, because I know that there's a lot in there. So for me, my goals are generally the same. It just depends on what I want to do within them. I
For
don't know
sure.
if that if like helping other people, what does that look like for me this year? A
Hmm.
closer relationship with God, what does that look like this year? So I don't just come up with these big things, I guess, and I know a lot of people do.
Well, that's a perfect segue into learning how to do what we call SMART goals. And there's an acronym SMART, and it's been around for ages. You're shaking your head. I know you know what it is. And so S stands for specific. Be as specific as you possibly can. Because if you're not specific about it, you have a tendency to be half-hearted or in your attempts, because if it's really big and broad, then it gives you the opportunity to like bail out on it. But be very, very specific in your goals. And then M stands for measurable. Make sure that you can measure it. And like if it's losing weight, that's a pretty easy one to measure. So just have a measuring way, a way to monitor, because that could be another way, is monitor instead of measure. And there's some great apps out there and websites to help support that. In fact, I feel like our app store these days is overwhelming because everyone's coming up with an app for something. Because we have these, nice little pieces of technology that we can carry around, a little mini computer, and help us do everything. But ones that I have looked at that I think are really helpful is there's one that's called stick.com, and the stick is with 2Ks. So stickk.com. And then the other one is Minder, be like a buzzy bee, minder.com. And so you can go to their websites if you don't want to use an app, and they'll just give you some tools on how to measure and monitor the goals that you set for yourself. And what's great is you can put in there whatever you want it to be, and it'll help you keep track of it. So that's the M in SMART. Then A is attainable. Make sure it's something that is attainable for you. If it's a huge goal, sometimes it feels overwhelming. And if it is a huge goal, then chunk it up and break it up into smaller goals so that you can attain those smaller goals to reach the bigger goal. But make sure it's something that you're properly prepared for and that you can actually attain it. So don't pick something that's so out there that it's going to be too hard for you to get to. Then R is relevant. Make sure it's relevant to what you're wanting to do. Make sure it's in alignment with what you're doing. If it's a business goal or if it's a personal goal, make sure you're in alignment, and so that it's relevant to you achieving what you're wanting to achieve. Then T is timely or time-based. And that kind of goes along with it being measurable. So, or it can also be, make sure you set it in goal. Like, I'm going to have this done by January 30th, or I'm going to have this done by, and to pick a date so it's timely and time-based for you to go. Because if we don't pick a time, we have a tendency to keep pushing it on that back burner and saying, oh, I'll get to it when I can. I'll get to it when I can. So put a time limit on it. So SMART goals is a great way to start. If you haven't sat down with what you're wanting to do, make sure you kind of break it down into SMART. So it's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. Sounds
Okay.
pretty easy, right?
Yeah, I learned it a little different, so that's why I'm just sitting here taking in what you're saying. Great.
Perfect. How did you learn it?
Well, S is, like you say, specific. So instead of me saying I want to lose weight, I should say I want to lose 20 pounds.
Yes.
And so that it is very specific. The measurable is just that, how can I tell whether or not I'm reaching that goal? And so I set some criteria and whatever in there. My A is action. What are the action or activity? What are the action items I'm going to take to reach the goal? And my R then is reasonable. And that's what the attainable. Is it reasonable? Do I have the resources, the time, the support, whatever I need to do it? And then the T is time bound. So yeah, just a little bit different here, but it's all the same.
I love it though. And but it's been proven time and time again that 10 times more likely to change your behavior and achieve it if you have something very specific and that you can hang on to using the SMART acronym. And so
Absolutely.
it's a great way to just kind of get jump started if you're feeling overwhelmed, which is very, very understandable because people are afraid of, it's analysis, it's paralysis by analysis, and so SMART will help you break it down so that you're not paralyzed by analyzing your goal, and it'll help you give you a jumping off place. So some of the pitfalls that I like to encourage people to just be aware of is just be prepared that when you set a goal to attain something, to gain something, there's always a trade-off. There's never solutions, there's always a trade-off. So if you're going to be trying to gain something, you're going to be giving something up. So meaning like if you're trying to manage your budget, you need to give up impulse buying. That will be your trade-off. So if you're wanting to manage your financial budget, then you're going to have to give up impulse buying. And if you're wanting to do more exercise, you're going to have to give up some TV time. So there will be trade-offs that you need to recognize and be prepared for, that all of these things that you're wanting to attain might not just appear and come to you. Like there will have to be some sort of trade-off. And I think when people don't think and recognize that there will be a trade-off, they tend to not want to give up that one thing to get that other thing. And so it's like they'll hang on to what they're wanting, from the past rather than really what they're wanting for their future. So just be aware of it. Another one is to plan for, anticipate emergencies. Things will come, anticipate challenges and setbacks. There will be things that will happen. I call them speed bumps. You will have speed bumps or you'll have things that derail you. And so it's important to show yourself some grace, to take these opportunities that they're not necessarily failures. There can just shift your perspective on it and be like, okay, this is a slight setback, or this is something I didn't think was going to happen, or you can learn and adapt from these situations that pop up. So when you have a derailment or a speed bump, I encourage people to not let it completely send them off course, but to actually look at it for what it is and learn from it and use it as an opportunity to course correct. Because no path and no course is perfect. Like we always have things that pop up, and especially if, I would say for some people that are wanting to, have a clean diet and eat healthier, if they're not anticipating, a spontaneous party to go to, and they go to the party and they fall off the food wagon, it's okay. It's totally okay. Show yourself some grace. You're actually living your life and being social and having connections. And it's okay. You can get right back on your course and on your wagon the very next day. But some people are like, oh, I blew it. I'm done. It's like,
Yeah, and your mindset is very important as you take a look at that. And John Maxwell talks about this in one of his books, Failing Forward.
yes.
And so yeah, if I go someplace, and part of that though too, like you mentioned, the party and the rest is your own discipline. So while I may say, what, yeah, I fell off the wagon and I'm going to do better tomorrow, I find for me it's important to recognize why I did what I did or why I did not do what I had thought I was going to do, so that that's the course correction for me. How do I remedy that? So then if I'm going to a party, maybe I eat what I know that I'm supposed to eat at home. So when I get there, I'm not hungry. I can make whatever, little changes or whatever. So then I don't feel as burdened by a setback, as you said.
Right. Yes. And sometimes we can prepare for those setbacks. And then sometimes there's those setbacks that come that just completely blindside us. And that's where it's really important to show yourself some grace, and like stuff happens, and if it's one that you could have prepared for, one thing I do tell some of my clients is, give yourself a get out of jail free card, and maybe give yourself, 2 every 6 months, and be like, well, that one I didn't, account for. And all right, that's my get out of jail free card today, and then that way you can just really allow yourself the opportunity to have missteps. And it's because we're human. I mean, let's face it, we're not perfect. So we can learn from those opportunities. But like you said, like we do have a misstep, then it's like, okay, why did I do that? Let's try not to let that happen again. Let's learn from this and move forward and not dwell on it and let it set us back
Right. That
or
if,
really pull us off course.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So another tip that I have is to use a resolution journal. And I call it a resolution journal because, I mean, you could call it just a journal that you want, but really that's your place that you can start using your SMART goal, like right in there, and then be sure to share it. I shared this last year when we were talking about getting ready to set your intentions for 2023. So when you use a resolution journal, it gives you the opportunity to not only think about it, but then you're actually writing it, and when you're reading it, like you're seeing it multiple times, you're thinking it, seeing it, writing it, and then when you're sharing it, it really starts to ingrain it within you. And then you can talk, and then you can use that journal as you're going along, because the reality is when we have these times where we start to kind of fall away from our goal or our resolution, it's really important to get reconnected with it and think about why you chose it in the first place. And that will reinvigorate and keep it going for you. It'll keep it alive, so to speak. And so having that journal just gives you an opportunity to think, and also write down your struggles so that if you face that struggle again in October, you can reference your journal and be like, oh, I know what this feels like. Like I was here before, like, and I can move through it much faster when you're uncomfortable with the same goal, a few months down the road. So using a journal just really helps keep it present and living on a constant, basis so that we don't fall away from it, because we have a tendency to allow the minutia of life to distract us. But if you have an intentional book that you're writing it in, or if you want to use an app, like I mentioned earlier, the measurable apps, like those are also just to keep it present for you, and so if you're going to be using Stick or BeMinder or any other, app to help you, just to keep you engaged with it on a constant basis. Another fun tip is if you get friends or family involved and you kind of put money on the table, put money where you're talking. And so, but my whole hang up with that is it goes into a pot. It's not a hang up, but my suggestion is it goes into a pot and the money actually goes to charity. No one actually wins the money that's invested in this, but it goes to a charity of everyone's choice. And so it kind of just makes it a little more fun, if you're going to put some money in the pot, to help, motivate. Because sometimes money motivates people. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it does. So,
Mm-hmm.
just, make sure that you're having fun with it, because if you're not having fun with your goals and your resolutions and your intentions, that's why it just won't, you won't persist as long, if you're not having fun with it. You got to enjoy the act of the pursuit, I should say. And I see someone sharing something with us now.
They like the idea of failing forward and of also giving yourself grace when you have setbacks.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah, and that's right, and that's important. It is. It's very very important that we do that. We have to understand. From me, I have learned I have to understand why I'm where I am so that I can move forward.
mhm.
And I can't overlook it. I can't, because we're doomed to repeat those things again. For me, I have to learn the lesson or I'll find myself in it again. Even if the nuance may be different, the context may be different, but I recognize it. I'm like, poop, I didn't learn what I was supposed to learn last time, or I didn't do what I was supposed to do, and here I am again. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's why sometimes writing it down does give you the opportunity. And I see Kathy says here, writing down is a good suggestion. Goals in your mind are easily forgettable. And it's so true. And that's where we also, not only are goals easily forgettable, but we also easily forget our mistakes sometimes too. And that's how we end up repeating them. And so it is really wonderful to write them down, but not only writing them down, but also sharing them, which leads me into the next suggestion, and that's have a buddy system. Find somebody, whether it's your partner in life, a really good friend, a family member, or even a child if you have an adult child, because what a great way to not only, further your bond with your child or your parent, but have a buddy system. Find somebody that you can deeply share, what you're really wanting to achieve for this year, and have a date, whether it be once a month or once a week, whatever it works for you. But have a date where you're going over what, if it was if you're going to do it weekly, how was your week? What did you get from it, and how are we going to move forward? It's kind of like what you've shared with us a couple of times, Lady B, about, it's yes, no, right? Yep.
Yeah, the accountability partner. Yep, you have your questions ready, and they can be answered with a yes or no. There's no guilt. Either you did it or you didn't,
Mhm.
and you can just move. Okay, wow, I did this, or I didn't do that, and I didn't do it twice. So now I need to fix that or do whatever. So yes, an
Mhm.
accountability partner is good. What I will say to that though is be careful who you choose. Share, don't share your dreams with people who can't help you attain them.
Right.
That's just important, because you're going to get the naysayers that are out there. You want to do what? You want to save for a house in this market, or you're going to find people, and you don't want to have to fight against all of that too. Actually, look for people who have the same kind of mindset, or who have your best interest at heart as you get ready to do whatever it is you're going to do.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because you're going to be the same for them. So you don't want to be a naysayer for them either, so it's, you are who you are around. So make sure, yeah, you're definitely picking people that are going to lift you up, because in turn, you're going to be lifting them up. There's a lot of beauty in having a buddy to achieve things with, because not only is there that accountability, but there's also that support. Because if you're having a rough week in attaining the things that you need to attain that week, just having the ability to lean on someone and be like, I'm struggling this week, and they can just be there for you to vent, not necessarily fix it for you, but if we don't vent when we're struggling, and I don't
Mhm.
mean vent in a bad way, but if we harbor it, then it actually tends to fester and not be good. So I have this rule with my closest friend. It's like, before I even start, I'm like, vent. And that's the word I say. And then I go. And then it's not necessarily that I want her to fix it, but just I needed a space to like get it out. And then I can figure out a solution and move forward, or a trade off of some sort. Um, and then sometimes when it's like success, I'm going to share. And then it's like the beauty of, having success. But it's so wonderful to have a partner that you can share in that with, because then they can really help you along, especially if you've fallen into a pitfall. So definitely find an accountability partner or buddy, or however you want to call it. And there's a lot of beauty in that.
Well, and even some of these social media areas have groups that can help people that do this exact same kind of thing for setting your goals or your intentions or what, and supporting each other. And some people find that when you're dealing with people and there's some anonymity there, that it's, it can be a little easier for them to share, or just, and then they can learn some things from other people, and gain some insights about how to and how not to do some things. So that's one of the beauties of social media. If you want to learn how to do something, or if there's all kind of support groups and things out there for keeping your resolutions and the rest. So that's an option for people too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And one of the things, and you can reward yourself. If you set a goal, attach a reward to it if you'd like. And it doesn't necessarily have to be anything huge. It could be something super minor. But reward yourself when you and your partner get together and share your successes from the week or the month, or however you want to break it down. But definitely reward yourself. And like I said, it could be something super simple. And sometimes if you're really struggling with getting away from something that's not super great for you, like there's some things that you could do where I call temptation bundling. So if you really enjoy, a good latte, but you're trying to watch your diet, sometimes those flavored lattes at Starbucks or wherever can be loaded with calories. So, but one of your goals is to, be better at learning something. Maybe you get your latte at the library, and take it to a library and study, so that you're doing something while you're having something that you enjoy. Or if you're trying to get away from watching TV because you're wanting to exercise more, maybe you think about exercising while you're watching that TV show. So there's all kinds of ways that you can kind of do your trade-offs. Also, like I had mentioned before, sometimes there's going to have to be a trade-off. Sometimes if you've gotten to a point where you've been really good at doing delayed gratification, maybe at the end of the month, your reward is like a temptation bundle where you get to have both of parts of the trade-off. But doing that all the time isn't going to yield a lot of success for you, but it's a nice little way to do a reward, is do a temptation bundle.
Nice.
I like temptation bundles. I do, because sometimes it's like I'll get to a point where I'm like, I really want that. So I'll reward myself with it at the same time as doing whatever I needed to do to earn it.
There you go.
But yeah, so I mean, that's really, don't complicate it, in setting your resolutions, your goals, your intentions, whatever word clicks for you. Like I had said before, goals focus on, the how and the what. Intentions there's a why when you have an intention. And sometimes that having that intention and that why, that motivation, I think helps us tend to stick to it a little bit better. But goals are ones that are really measurable too, so it's kind of like, just find what word works for you. I know resolution, intention, goals, they all kind of float around out there, but they're all very, very similar. It's just finding out what works with your personality to achieve what you're wanting to achieve.
Well, you mentioned having goals, and it's important for everyone to do that. And we also, one of the things I find helpful is a vision board, because like you said, put them someplace so that you can see them. If you do a vision board, then you can see them, and you're probably more apt to begin to manifest behaviors that are leading you toward where you want to go. So that's something that, and they're easy to learn how to do. You can do them with a group. You can do them on your own. You can Google it. They have lots of different classes to teach you how. There's a zillion things out there for those. But a vision board is wonderful, and it's really kind of your goals, and you can set it for a time period of, as short or as long as you want.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be very, very helpful. And it's also a nice rewarding thing when you can look back on something that you said you were going to do in 2021 and you did it. And it's like, wow. Right? Instead of saying, oh, the board I use in 2021, I can use in 2022 because I didn't do anything or whatever.
If you can use it 2 years later, we need to, we
need to have a conversation. Right. You need a coach after that. You need a coach.
Like, wait a minute. But the beauty of a board too is we are very visual people. I mean, we are. I mean, that's why social media is so successful. We are very visual, and having a vision board and put it where you can see it every day, and it does help renew. And I would encourage people, like, even if you have a vision board, add new pictures to it. Same topic, same goal that you're going for, but add a refreshed picture, because we do have a tendency to, like, if we create a vision board and then we leave it there and then 10 months later, I mean, we don't really tend to look at it anymore because it's just the same, but if you put updated pictures on it to help you stay refreshed and it much more engaged with it. And the biggest key with, I think, vision boards, journals, things like that, is it keeps it, like I said, in a renewed fashion for you so that we don't fall away from it. Because that's one of the biggest things where people, I think, feel overwhelmed, is they're afraid they're going to not achieve it. So one of the things you can do is just keep it fresh in your mind and keep after it.
And keep those affirmations and those quotes and those positive things that you need to say to yourself, so that you can, again, keep it in the forefront of your mind. A lot of people will do that and put it on their, on their mirrors in their bathrooms or on in their cars someplace so that they can see it. So there's a lot of options for that. I will eat healthy today, instead of saying, one of your friends calls and says, "Oh, let's go to Papa Do's." You say, "Oh, girl, okay." You say, "You know what? I that sounds really, really good, but today I'm sticking to something else I said I was going to do," or whatever it would be. So there's options for us. There's options.
100%. Yep. And I love sticky notes. I mean, I have them all over. I have like colored ones, and I have on them my sayings for me, and they're affirmations, and it really keeps me. And I have one on there that's probably been there 3 years, but it's still one of my most favorite. And so I'll read it. It's, "Be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind."
I have one that I use too, and it's a personal one. It's one that I wrote for myself, and it's, "You take you with you wherever you go. So be the best you that you can be."
Yep. Yeah.
And that keeps me sane too. Well, I appreciate you being with us here today and for sharing all the insights that you did. Hope these tips were great for some people watching and listening, and share it with somebody else so they can come back and take a look at this video later on even. And if you have any questions or comments, make sure that you reach out to us and we'll be sure to get back to you as quickly and as promptly as we can. We're so glad that you were with us. Oh, and we're going to be live too coming here soon. You'll hear more about that. Yes?
Yes, I'm excited because our second back to basics every month will be in person here in Arizona. So I'm excited to see some faces, and in 2 weeks we'll be talking about just the basic moves to get moving, just to keep you healthy.
Fabulous. All right. Well, see you then. You all take care and God bless.
Thank you.